Welcome to this special presentation. Um, this is a movie review. If you didn't know by the title, I've never done a movie review. I had never planned on doing a movie review because movies I usually watch, I don't see in the theater. I see them months later on streaming or whatever. Um, because going to the movies is super expensive. Sometimes you just want to see a movie in the theater and get the full movie, the full theater experience. Um, like a bunch of Marvel movies. I'm a huge superhero fan. I love a lot of the superhero movies. I've seen a bunch of the Marvel movies in the theaters, and there was a movie that came out um, this past weekend, um, a Stephen King movie. Oh, it was a movie based on a Stephen King story, Stephen King movie. It was pretty faithful to the book, and it's a lesser known Stephen King story, kind of like the one that was just released earlier this year called The Monkey, um, which got rave reviews. It was more of a horror comedy uh, because the kills were like way over the top, kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street kind of stuff. Not really like that, but it was like, whoa, that's kind of funny. This movie is called The Long Walk. Before I get into all this other stuff, it's an hour and 48 minutes long. Okay, it's rated R, of course, because it's a Stephen King movie. Uh, Rated R for strong bloody violence, grisly images, suicide, pervasive language, and sexual references. Um, yeah, the strong bloody violence, absolutely. Okay, I was a huge Stephen King fan in high school. I read pretty much everything that he put out from the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. Um, just, I loved Stephen King. He put a bunch of movies out in the late 70s and 80s. Carrie, Firestarter, Pet Cemetery, Christine, uh, all fairly good adaptions of movies. I mean, they've always had good adaptions of Stephen King stories and bad adaptions of Stephen King stories. Looking at Lawnmower Man here, that was a Stephen King story way outside of what the story was. The story was a short story, which is maybe 10 pages long, and they turned it into a 2 hour movie or however long it was, and it was completely fucking horrible. It had nothing to do with the freaking story. Well, had a little bit to do with the story because in the story he mowed lawns. In the movie he mowed lawns, but then it went right off the rails and something else. But back to The Long Walk. This was a novella. People are saying it's a novel. I guess maybe it is a novel. Um, it was one of the first, or maybe the first story Stephen King wrote back in the late 60s while he was still in college or when he got out of college. I'm not sure which. And it sat in a drawer for years because of the subject matter at the time that was going on, or because of the subject matter. He didn't think it was something that people would enjoy back then. They probably wouldn't have. So he finally released it in a book with three other stories. The whole book was called the Bachman Books because he released it under Synodian, a different name. I can't say that word. It was called the Bachman Books. His alter ego was Richard Bachman. Among the stories in there was The Long Walk, Rage, The Running Man, and I think it was Dolan's Cadillac was the last one, which wasn't really that great in my opinion, but it was different. But uh, The Long Walk, I've read that story probably 4 times in my life. It's been a while since I read it. Had a vague remembrance of, well, not vague. I kind of remembered some of what it was about. I knew the concept, what was going to happen, but I didn't know how graphic the movie was going to be showing these scenes that were in the book. They did not shy away from showing pretty much everything during the movie. Just from the first part of the movie, first 10, 15 minutes, pretty mellow. Well, before I get into that, the story basically is every year after the United States was involved in some war, the country's kind of in despair, kind of dystopian. It's an unknown year. We don't know what year it is. Could be an alternate universe or whatever. Cars look like they're from the 70s. Well, he wrote it in the late 60s, so that would make sense. But so 50 young adults, young men, 18 or so, sign up for a lottery to get picked to do the long walk. One person from each of the 50 states gets picked from the lottery. They go to this place at the assigned time and day. And then the major, who through the movie, I guess, is not the president, but the guy that keeps the peace and is in charge of making sure everybody does what they're supposed to do. And we also find out during the movie that certain things are not to be taught. They're illegal now. We're not told what the things are, but just some things are not supposed to be taught, and it's illegal. And you will be either arrested, but in the movie we find out that no, you will be killed. So it's that kind of movie where everything is you do what we say or we will kill you. Yeah. So anyway, the movie, the boys get there. They get rations once a day. They get water whenever they want it in a canteen. They get a little watch type thing on their wrist that tells them what their speed is. It looks like an old boxy watch type thing, but it shows them their speed. They have to walk they have to walk they have to walk 3 miles an hour or above. If they fall below 3 miles an hour, they get a warning. If you don't get back up to 3 miles an hour within 10 seconds, you get another warning. Another 10 seconds, you don't get to 3 miles an hour, you get another warning. And then after another 10 seconds, you get your ticket, which is you get shot in the head. Yeah, this movie is not for the faint of heart. It's not a kid's movie. It's not a movie for the squeamish. If you're not good with blood and disgustingness and disturbing images, don't watch this movie. While there is people getting shot in the head, there's a lot of talking and walking throughout the movie because it's the long walk. So we have a camera basically in front of the walkers. There's 4 people that are kind of the main characters throughout. 2 are the main characters, and they're basically the camera follows them most of the time until a walker gets warned that they have their third warning or something. So that's when the tension comes, and it focuses onto that person. Are they going to make it? Are they going to get shot? So yeah, there is tension, but there's a lot of talking. We learn some backstory. We learn about their motivations. We learn why they're walking, for what reason, what they're going to wish for. I can mention that there's only one winner. You walk until there's only one person left, and that person's the winner. They get untold riches and one wish, whatever they want. So all the people are, not all the people, some of the characters tell us what they would wish for. Learn some of their backstory. So sometimes, yes, it's kind of a slog to watch, But I found it interesting because you get to learn about some of these people, and there's some dissension between some of the guys. Basically, there's going to be spoilers here. One of the people calls the other person a homophobic slur and says some other stuff, and he goes to swing at the guy, and he falls, and he slides across the pavement, uh, cutting up his side of his face, and he gets his ticket because he couldn't get back up or something. I don't remember exactly what happened there. So basically, everybody said this other guy killed him because he did that. So things like that. I thought it was a good movie. The violence was just crazy. They don't shy away. You know how a lot of movies, they'll show like one where somebody gets shot or something, or somebody will come up with a gun to somebody's head or something, and then just as they're about to shoot, they'll go to another scene where the people they're watching it, and then you hear the gunshot, and you see everybody's face like, and then it goes back to them, and you see the aftermath. They do not do that here. The first kill is in like the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, and I thought maybe they were gonna pan away or something. And the kid was down because he was having like a seizure, and he couldn't get back up. So he's like kneeling there, and he's got like foam coming out of his mouth, and it's like the camera's like right here, and then we see the army people. One of the army people come up with a gun right to his head, and then just pull the trigger, and we see everything. His whole face gets blown off, big hole in his head, and his head turns the camera. It's just blood and just skin and everything. And my my wife just grabbed me like, oh, she thought they were going to pan away too. It was crazy, just insane movie. But as the movie goes on, we get to see not such close-ups like that. We still see a few like that in other disturbing images, but there are other ones where we see like in the background the person getting shot. We see like a spray of blood and brains out the back, but not like close up. But we basically see every freaking shot in some way or another, that somebody's getting shot in the head because they stopped walking or they couldn't walk anymore. And we also see a guy. I forgot to say that there are three vehicles. One's got a camera on it with a couple of guys with guns. We got a Jeep, a couple of guys with guns. And we got like a mini tank type thing with some guys with guns. And they're monitoring all the walkers. And they're the ones that are there to give them their rations for the day and the water when they need it, and to shoot them when they fall below 3 miles an hour. So the camera is there because it's being broadcast to the United States, across the United States, to everybody to watch. One guy gets run over by the treads of the tank on the legs, and that doesn't turn away either. We see the treads go over the legs, and then they just disintegrate, and blood just goes everywhere. There's a guy stabbed himself with a spoon because he couldn't take it anymore. We saw this movie almost a week ago, and it still stuck with me. I don't know why. The guns, when they shoot in the theater, it was extremely loud, which I think was done by design to make us feel like we were there and feeling and seeing what the walkers were seeing, because it was extremely loud. The talking, not so much, but the gunshots were insanely just... My wife jumped every time, even though she knew it was coming, because because they walk up and they point the gun at their heads. But if you like uh, shit like that, I mean, I liked the movie. To be fair, me and my wife took a gummy before we went, like an hour or so before we went to the movie. So we were a little, you know, up in the clouds a little bit. So that might be why it stuck with me so much. Because movies, I watch fucked up movies all the time. Some really fucked up movies. And nothing has stuck with me like that movie did. For a week, I just find myself thinking about it like, man, what a crazy movie. But if, like I said, if you like movies like that, um, yeah, it's definitely graphic, visceral, intense, and dark. And there's a sense of despair throughout the whole movie. It's kind of gray, desolate. Where they're walking through, there's like hardly any houses. There's no people. They walk through a bunch of towns. I think they end up walking like the people that make it toward the end. They end up walking, I think, nearly 400 miles or something like that. And through the whole thing, there's no people in these towns really. There's a couple people here and there. So, before I keep going, before I end this, people that were in this movie, a few of the people, was one of the main characters, Ray Garrity, was played by Cooper Hoffman, who is the son of the actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest his soul, whose mother was in 2 scenes, drove him there, and we saw her while they were walking. She is Judy Greer. I don't know if you know who Judy Greer is. If you don't, Google her. She's been in a bunch of stuff. Awesome. For just 2 scenes she was in, awesome job. Very emotional, those 2 scenes that she was in. Then Ray's friend, like best friend during the walk, was Pete McVries, played by David Johnson, who was in the latest Alien movie that came out. Was it this year or last year? I think it was this year. Alien Romulus. He was in that. I think he played the robot, the android in that. Maybe. I can't remember. And then the Major, who is the big asshole of the movie, is played by Mark Hamill. Fucking Luke Skywalker himself. He's definitely in his villain phase of his characters. He was a villain in this, basically. He was kind of a villain in the show on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, he was kind of a villain in that. He was a villain. He played the Joker in the Batman cartoon, so that's kind of villainous. What else was there? Yeah. The ending was kind of ambiguous. So was the story ending. Story ending was changed for the movie, but both of them had kind of an ambiguous ending. Didn't really know what was going on. I don't know. There are some things changed throughout the movie. Like they combined 2 characters. They took some scenes out from the book. Like there's one scene in the book where one of the walkers, they came into a town and there was this hot girl, like sitting on the trunk of her car or whatever, and she was kind of like showing off. And this one walker went over to her and was like dry humping her, and he got all of his warnings and then finally stopped, but he had gotten so excited and he got like cramps or something. He couldn't walk the 3 miles an hour. In the book, it was 4 miles an hour, and that's pretty fucking fast if you're walking. But he couldn't walk, and he got his ticket. That was taken out. Yeah. All in all, this is a long review. All in all, I'd say the movie's good if you can get through the talking, and if you just like the gore, you could just fast forward through the gore if you don't watch it in the theater. If you wait for it to come out on video or whatever, you could just fast forward to the gore parts, if you know where the gore parts are. But it's good to watch the whole movie and just see why these walkers are doing this and all the other shit going on. I'd give this movie a 8 out of 10. If you like that type of stuff, if you like Stephen King. It's not technically horror. It says that it's horror sci-fi. Kind of sci-fi, I guess, in a way. Horror, I wouldn't really say it's horror. It's nothing, I mean, it's horrific. Some of the scenes are horrific, but not horror in the sense where it's scary. Very disturbing, very horrific. If you like movies like that, kind of slow burning, I suppose, with some talking, a lot of talking, and then some intense scene where you're like, holy shit, this movie's probably for you. Yeah, that's my review. Longer than I wanted it to be, but talking about this, hopefully will get it out of my head. I can't talk to anybody else about it except for my wife, because she was there, but it didn't stick with her like it did with me. And nobody that I work with even has heard of the movie. So I don't know if they even had commercials for this movie. We don't have cable. We just stream everything, but we do have stuff with commercials. I've never seen a commercial for it on any of the streaming services. I only knew about this because there was a trailer on YouTube for it, or somebody posted that there was a trailer. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have known that it was going to be coming out. So nobody has heard of this movie. Nobody's even heard of the story, so I don't know. But it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, if you're into that type of stuff, that type of movie, they did a really good job with the kill scenes. They look very, very realistic. The first one, you can kind of tell it's CGI because it was so close up. But the other ones, yeah, pretty damn good. Especially that scene with the tank treads going over the guy's legs. Fucking crazy. But yeah, I'm going to end it 23 minutes or so because who's even going to watch this anyway? But if you do, thank you. And until next time. Oh, I can't say that. This isn't a music review. Huh. Anyway, I'll see you next time.